Welcome to the Artist Academy podcast, a place where we focus on the business side of art to help you attract more customers, increase profits, to ultimately live a life of creativity and financial freedom. I'm your host, Andrea Earhart, and this week's episode, I'm going to be sharing the things that I don't like about my art business or haven't liked in the past and how I fixed it. I tend to focus on the positive side here, which I think we all should and whatnot and yada, yada. But I think shedding a light on some of the negativity and just bad things that happen or uncomfortable situations or, when a client screws me over or just things like that aren't all sunshine and rainbows, but it happens to all of us, me included. And there's a couple things that I let happen in my art business and I didn't stop it. And I just thought, hey, this is the price I'm paying. Or, hey, I'm just going to grit through it. And, I should have put a stop to it way sooner. So I'm just going to share some of the things and you're either going to relate or not. But I hope that this gives you a little bit of maybe relaxation or something. I'm kind of missing the word on it exactly, but something to where if things like this are happening to you, you can realize you can fix it. Or if they happen in the future, you'll be like, oh, well, it's not just me. Okay, great. So, the first one, I've talked about this a lot in the past, and it's the number one thing. So I'm just going to get it out of the way first. And it was overbooking myself. I have such a survival mindset naturally. If you've listened to this podcast or book or anything for any amount of time, you know that I grew up with a single mom in a trailer and survival was our life. It was my mom working overtime to just support bare needs for the family. I didn't ask for anything extra. It was just, you said thank you to what you had. And there you go. And so I've carried that over into my art business. And especially in the beginning, I would just take everything. I would, you want your shoes painted? Sure. You want your fence painted? All right. And eventually I started to get a lot pickier. Whereas to nowadays, I have started saying no to a lot of things that aren't profitable or that I don't like to do. And so that alone has helped with overbooking myself. But to be specific, because I really love specifics, and it's one thing to say, book less. You're like, well, how much less? How much are you taking on exactly? How much are you saying no to exactly? And I probably say no to, or I outprice myself or something about 50% of the inbound requests that come in. I typically don't do any outbound. I typically don't do any pitching lately as much. I do some RFQs, but aside from a handful of those, I probably outprice myself on half or more of the things that are inbound. And for my schedule, the thing that I have really, really learned is that I can do one project per week. That's it. And I say that, but I usually have one project that's kind of in the studio that doesn't really have a time limit on it. And I told somebody that I'd get it done this month sometime or whatever, that I'm like, okay, if I book this project this week, this project I know is going to take 2 days. So for instance, I have a project next week that is in Branson that is going to take 2 days. I know for a fact it's not going to take more than that, but that is the only thing I have planned that week. I know from my schedule that I have hours open to where I for sure could work more than that. But I am making myself only schedule that one project next week because I know that weather might happen. Either it's too hot, too cold, rain, whatever. That's also something that was super uncomfortable for a long time. I did not want to work in the heat. If it's raining, you obviously can't. If it's too cold, I say no. And a tip with that is a lot of times, even if I'm on a project and I'm working and then it's supposed to be 95 degrees the next day, I'll just tell people, hey, I'll be back on Tuesday. And I don't even really tell them why. I just am like, hey, I'm going to stop and it's Thursday now, but I will be back on Tuesday. And they'll be like, okay, because people don't care. People don't care about when exactly the job gets done. They just want to know that it's going to get done in a time frame this month, sometime, whatever. And so if things get too hot or too cold, I just don't do it. But anyway, going back to this one, I also assume that something is going to come up. Something. My toddler might get sick. Something. I don't know. I'm going to have to run out of town to go pick up a farm animal. Like something is going to happen that I have no idea what it is. Or I could have a client from the past, a customer who I like a lot, and they have something come up last minute and they're like, "Oh, I would really love for you to do this. Can you do it?" "Oh yeah, because I've only scheduled myself one project this week." "Yes, I can do that for you." Like, yes, I can easily stay home with my son. Yes, I can do whatever farm thing I need to do around our little petting zoo farm that we've acquired. It's planning for the unexpected. And I see people, leaving one day a week open, and then, it rains 2 days and you're like, "Oh no, like my schedule is all off." And it's like, well, yeah. So I have learned to just do one thing a week, even though I know I have time. I just can't say this enough, because the majority of muralists, especially that I talk to, are frantically like, "I have this and this going and I don't have enough time in the day." And like, what champagne problems, right? Like, we have too much work. We don't know what to do. But things can pile up fast, like really fast. It's so easy for a customer to add on to something. Like, say that 2-day project, say they're like, "Hey, we really love this. Can you add this thing?" Then it automatically goes into 3 days, right? Or they're like, "Hey, we really want this and this." Then it automatically goes into 4 days. And like, I'm completely thrown off, especially if I've scheduled myself back to back to back for the next month or 2 or 3. Or if I've only given myself one day and my son gets sick and they want more and it rained in the same week, I'm screwed, right? Because there's always something that I can move up. There's always the project next week. Like, "Hey, I have some time on Friday. I can come this week if you're ready." And they'll either say yes or no. Or the canvas project that I need to do that's sitting in my studio, I can move that up. It's something. So one project a week. And some people might say, "Andrea, I need to pay my bills. One project a week is not going to do." I get that. And if you're in the beginning and you're in the hustle phase, I totally understand. And I think just do it until you get too burnt out. And then when you get burnt out, that's going to be the lesson learned. And then be like, okay, I'm going to do this. And that, or raise your prices. That really is the thing. It's raising the prices just a little bit to get some other people off your back to where you can outprice yourself just a little bit. And then it makes it a little bit worth it. So you can do one project per week. And also something that's helped me with this is posting less on social media. I've found, so lately I'll probably post like twice a week on social media. And then I'll go like 2 weeks without posting at all. And then I'll post 3 times in 1 week. And then I'll go a week without posting at all. And I don't have as much inbound coming in as I used to. And that shows me it really is correlated to how much effort I'm putting out is how much is coming in. So it's really nice, because the stage of life that I'm in right now is I want to spend time with my toddler, and I want to garden, and I don't necessarily want to have a full schedule like I did in the beginning. And so posting less adds to that. It's so funny though, because say you're on the other side, right? You're probably listening to this and you're like, "Well, I wish I had that problem." But think about it on the other end of that. It's so simple, but if I were to post more, I would get way more people saying, "Hey, I saw that logo you did. Can you come do my logo?" Like things like that. And I was just talking to my friend Crystal. She was with the Easy Easel, and she said, she's like, "The busier I look on social media, the busier I get in real life." I was like, "What do you mean?" And she said, the more she posts on social media, so several times a day, right? The more people are coming in and saying, "Hey, can you do this? Can you do this?" And then if you slow down a little bit, it's, the inbound is a little bit less. So it's not just me, it's her too. And she has a fantastic Facebook. If you want to go, it's the EZ Easel, EZ, the letters, Easel. And go check out and see how many times she posts and what she posts. She just does selfies of her doing art all the time. And I'm just like, man, girl's got it going on. She looks really busy. And the busier she posts, the more she posts about how busy she is, the busier she gets. Okay, so number 2, the second thing that really bugs me about my art business that I have is the should be to-do list. I have so many things on my should to-do list that I put there, mind you. I recognize that I have put them there, or I've started this little canvas and then I need to go back to it, but I haven't made time. Or I have this community art project that I'm doing, the raccoons around Rogersville. I don't know if you've heard that in a previous episode or been following me online. Basically, I'm pitching to paint little raccoons all around Rogersville because we used to be known as the raccoon capital of the world. And I think it's a really good way to get my name out in the town. And so I have that. And that was on my to-do list for a very long time. And I have just recently made headway with it. And I've just painted a couple of them around town. And now I have inbound coming in of more people wanting to have them. And so it's finally getting started. But that thing was on my to-do list for months and it drove me nuts. I've also started this children's book with a zebra and I'm stuck on illustrating his face. I've got a couple good ones and I can't put it around it and I'm not making the time for it. And so that's another thing that's my should be to-do list, things that I have created that I don't necessarily need to do, but I want to do it. And it's on my to-do list. And I want to make the Artist Academy better. I want to add more videos to it. I want to post on YouTube more. I want to maybe think about growing my TikTok again. I don't know. I'm not really on that platform, but I know I could be making better reels. I know it is endless. And I don't see people who work for someone else at a 9 to 5 having this. And sometimes I'm a little jealous that whenever 5 o'clock hits and they clock out, they're not constantly thinking, oh, maybe if I make this video, then this is going to make this happen. And then it's just, what if I put up this sales page and then, or I could offer this as a print. And it is all the time. I just cannot. It's also shiny object syndrome. I have that super bad. It's just any new thing. I'm like, oh, that looks like fun. Let me try that. This other thing that currently makes me money that I've gotten really good at, that's really easy for me. Let's forget about that this week. I want to go do this new thing that's way harder. And So my should be to-do list of just feeling like I always have something to do. I fixed it a little bit. I work on it, but it's really just eliminating a lot of the things that would land on my to-do list or should to-do list. And really one of those main things is canvases. Whenever I think about, what new style to paint or what new something that I could offer for the fourth quarter or whatever, that's usually what sits on it the longest is a canvas commission in my studio. So I've really set that back and replaced it with a children's book. I try to, anytime I think about, okay, I really want to do this new idea that I have for a canvas, I think, okay, wait, I actually have a couple canvases in my studio that I should probably sell. So before I start a new canvas, I'm going to try to maybe do an auction online. Love those. I'm going to try to sell a couple small canvases that I have, and then I'll do it. Then I'll give myself permission to add another thing that might sit in my studio as well. Or if I think about just doing something new, really what takes precedent is, no, before I do that, I need to do my children's book. I need to do that. So at least it keeps me from starting something new. But also I heard this advice here lately. It was something about some podcast, I can't even remember, of somebody talking to their mentor. They were talking about, should they have kids this year or another kid or whatever? And the advice was to think about your life in terms of decades instead of years. And I really liked that. They went on to explain something about how you're in your 30s or you're in your 20s or whatever. Do you want to have kids in your 20s or do you want to have kids in your 30s? Do you want to have kids in your 40s? And they're like, well, no, I don't want to do the 40s thing. I want to have kids in my 30s. Okay, then just do that. Don't think about, does it need to be this year or at the end of this year or next year? It's like, okay, just before you're 40, just do that. And it really made me think on things that are on my should to-do list of just doing art business things, but also doing fun things like, and having another kid and just all these things that are in my mind and on my list in my phone, in the notes section of my phone of things to do, of when to do them and having it be okay with things sitting there for a long time. And so with my children's book, for instance, I keep thinking, okay, before I start something new, I need to do this. But if I don't do it right now, is it okay? Like, yeah, yes, it's okay. But I just want to have it out before Christmas. That is my thing. And really the idea is to just have one out this year and then have one out next year. And then the year after that, have another kid's book. And then in 5 years, I'm going to have 5 of them. And it'll be a cute little collection. That sounds good to me. I don't need to have 5 out this year. I don't need to have 5 out by the end of next year, but I have 5 ideas in my head and I have 1 started. And that's pretty good. That's pretty good for having a business and a toddler and all the things. And so this could be my want to procrastinate and just having reasons behind it and be like, okay, yeah, and just making sense of that. But it's also just helped me get off my own back about having things on my to-do list. So having the organization of it and the know-how to not start something new before I did the thing that I'm supposed to do that I've already started. And then just saying, okay, if it doesn't get done right now, just as long as it's by the end of the year, it's okay. So I'm probably going to start back on that tonight because now I'm thinking about it. But it's actually just doing kids' books with characters, with expressions, like full-on expressions in different directions, their heads turning different. It's hard. It's way harder than I thought. I don't know why I thought this was a good idea, but I'm going to see it through. I have also created a baseline of things to do this week to feel accomplished, because having all of these things on my to-do list can also make me feel less than. It can make me feel like I'm not doing enough. And that is really the feeling that I want to get away from. It's because I've set up a really good business and I'm making money and everything is going good. Like there's no reason that I should be feeling negatively. Things are working well. They're just not working as well as the hopes and dreams that I have in my head. And so to not try to get as down about that, I made a baseline to-do list. And so I encourage you to do this because it's really helped me, is just take out the notes in your phone or write it down on a piece of paper and write down like 2 or 3 things that if you do that this week, then this is an accomplishing week. These are the things that I need to do. And for me, the things that I need to do every single week are I need to do 1 podcast episode. I need to either do an interview or record a solo or something. And some weeks I'll do more than 1, and that's great. And then because it makes up for the weeks that I'm out of town, or the weeks that I really don't have it in me, or the weeks that I'm really overbooked with murals, even though I try not to do that, but sometimes it happens. So my ideal week is 1 podcast episode a week, and then paint something. Because there's some weeks that I can get really in my head and think, okay, I need to do this sales page and I need to do this and that. Or I just get lazy and I'm like, oh, I dive into gardening or I dive into something else other than work. And so I'm like, okay, I need to paint something. I need to paint something this week. And if I finish it, that's the goal. But at least painting the majority of it or starting it, like really finishing. Like the thing that would make me feel the best is finishing it. But sometimes I just need to sit down and paint and just get my head out of the way and just put paint to brush and turn on a podcast episode to drown out all those shoulds. Yeah, but painting something that week and doing a podcast episode that week. And lately, so since I do have all of these shoulds in the back of my head, it's really bothering me lately that I keep doing the same things over and over again. So I've been trying new things. And aside from like the illustrations and children's books and stuff like that, New things as in trying new recipes. Like I learned to bake sourdough for the first time, and I learned to grow things from seed. And I helped build. I wrangled my dad and my husband into helping me, but I built a mud kitchen for my son because what kid wouldn't want that? I would love to have that as a little kid. And so I saw it on Pinterest. And I'm like, I need to do this. And so learned how to do that. And so my third one is just try something new. Learn one new thing a week. That would make my soul happy. And lately, it's trying new recipes. That's a really easy thing because you could literally just one new recipe a week. How many times do I specifically, and you maybe, it's just, I get into these same eating habits or eat the same thing for dinner and the same thing. And I just get so burnt out. It's like adding one new recipe a week makes such a difference, especially if it's something I like. And sometimes it's not very good, but most of the time it is. And so that's what's on my baseline to-dos. Podcast episode, paint something, ideally finish it, and try something new. Something, anything, something as small as a recipe, something, anything. Usually I make a list of things. Oh, maybe I'll get out my list right now and show you. Okay, yep, I just got my phone out. It's literally titled New Things to Learn. And I have gardening, check. Grow things from a seed, check. Light whip, check. You're like, what the heck is a light whip? Just YouTube it. It's a light whip and it's not like, you just have to see it, but it's basically a whip that kind of like, you can trail it around your body and you turn off the lights and it's kind of like an EDM thing, but it's a lot easier than a glow hula hoop. And I just thought it was the coolest thing. And so I turned on a YouTube channel one night and for like 3 hours, just watched and just practiced. And I learned how to do this light whip and it looks really cool. And it's nothing sexual really kind of, and it's just a fun new thing. Anyway, also what's on here is I want to learn to crochet. I want to finish the children's book. I want to learn how to do a backflip again. I used to be able to do it on a trampoline and I just haven't done it in a long time. And I would just love to be able to do that or like a back walkover or something. I don't know. That's just on my list. I would love to do a handstand. And I want to do an art auction and just get rid of all of the paintings in my art studio. That has been on my list for a long time. And I want to learn some new painting styles. So I want to paint something Mediterranean because every time I look at one of those beautiful Mediterranean paintings, I'm like, I just want to dive into that canvas and paint it. I also want to paint some florals, which is probably coming from my gardening spurt that's happening. And so, I just make a list of all the fun things, painting or not related, that I want to do. And slowly, and I have a ton of screenshots of recipes that I try and all that. But the third thing that led me to pretty much hate my business, that I really had to, like the other two, put myself in check and say, okay, slow down. How do I mentally overcome this obstacle? Was the uncertainty that comes with owning your own business, especially an art business, because just the truth is the next month is not promised. Sometimes next week, sometimes next year for some entrepreneurs in the art field. And I really felt this in the beginning. And coming from that survival mode, that's why I took on everything. But not just that, it's just knowing that there are so many ways to go with this business. It's not just so many things that I should paint. There's so many things, so many decisions to be made here. Should I do an email list? What is that next one thing that I could be focusing on and doing way more that could bring me more profits, that could bring me more fulfillment and happiness? What is the right step? Where is work going to come from? Where am I going to miss out on something? And my favorite way to mentally overcome this is to take myself on a walk. I just did this an hour ago. I took my dog and took her on a walk, and because I was just feeling very overwhelmed, or I just had a lot of time this morning, and I was like, what do I do today? What is the best thing that I could be working on that needs the most attention. There's so many things on the list, but what's the one thing that I could do? And I just needed to get focused because I started to start scrolling, right? And I was like, oh, okay, shake my head. Let's go on a walk. And so I just walked up to my mailbox, which is like less than a quarter mile and back. So less than a half mile for sure. Not far, but even in just that short of a walk, I just got real with myself. I was like, okay, because I was contemplating what kind of subjects I should be painting. Should I niche down? Should I do and I think those are things that a lot of artists think. I paint a variety of things because I get bored pretty often. And I was just feeling very overwhelmed because I want to try something fun and new on canvas at some point. And I just couldn't decide on what subjects were really me. And so on this walk, I was leaning towards maybe even doing portraiture with flour, because then I could sell that and I could customize it really easily with just doing part of somebody's face. And I was just like, what am I doing? No. That's literally the survival mode in me talking, thinking how I can make money with this thing by customizing it to someone else, because I know customization is the thing that sells. And I was like, no, just get out. No, if I wasn't going to sell this thing, what style would I do? What would I paint if I wasn't going to sell it? And I know that I need something that I could paint within a day, one day. And I'm not talking a full 8-hour day. No, who has that to work? I'm talking 5-6 hours. That's ideally, because in the morning I hang out with my son, and then I have to pick my garden, and I have to do all this other stuff. And there's just no way that I'm going to be able to make myself sit and paint for 8 hours in this time of life. And plus I couldn't do a podcast episode and all these things. So I was like, what can I paint and be done with it in 6 hours and still have a really good result, have something that's really good, but still be happy about it. And I realized on my little walk, I'm like, okay, no. I really am into this cutesy animal thing. I've always been into it. I always go back to it, which really just goes along to exactly what I'm doing with the book illustrations. I'm doing this, they're cutesy animals doing that. I just need to stick with that. That's something that I really enjoy. So I have this idea in my head and I'm going to paint it. But just even going on that walk helped me to frame it and also come back and say, okay, I need to record a podcast episode today. That's the to-do thing that I need to do. And then I have this idea for this new canvas inspiration thing when I have some more time later on. So I also want to say too, I've always had this uncertainty thing. I was just playing card games with my friend and the other day, and they're like, if you could invite anybody to dinner, who would it be? And I was like, I would invite somebody who is doing the exact business that I'm doing, or even my future self. Actually, that would sound way better. My future self. That way I could talk to her 10 years from now and be like, okay, what did you do exactly? Tell me the exact steps that you did in order to, one, grow the business and make more money, and also just be happier and have more time and all the things. Because I know where I'm at right now is really good, but I always want to grow it a little bit more every year and be a little bit happier and make a little bit more money, right? That's the idea. And I want to see what 10 plus years from now me has done. And I want her to give me the step-by-step things. That's never going to happen, right? And if I could find a mentor who was that, I would gladly pay them. Gladly. Just show me exactly what it is. But that's why I created the Academy, because especially artists who are in the very beginning, you haven't even, creating a website is on your to-do list. That is where I shine the most, because I start from the very beginning and say, this is step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3. There you go. Because even though I still struggle with it, I think every business owner, especially in art, we always struggle with, what to paint next or what's the next thing. But I know what the next thing is in the very beginning, especially if you want to do prints or murals. I've done them all and I know exactly what you need to do. And so it's all inside of the Academy, and videos, step-by-step lessons, tutorials, templates. That's what I was looking for. Templates, contract templates, subcontractor templates. When you decide to start hiring, it's all there. But as the phase I am right now, I'm still going through what you're going through, but it's just different. It's just slightly, it's not quite as heart-wrenching as it used to be. I remember just being in the worst mood going out to eat with my friends because I wasn't making the money that I wanted to, and I wasn't feeling fulfilled. And I had something, this week, but I did not have anything next week. And it sucked. And I've also gotten told no because I pitched so many times, like talking about back in the day. And it affects everything. It affects your social being. It affects your home life. It affects everything. And so I started the Academy because I know all too well how frustrating that is, especially in the beginning. If you're a beginner artist, you are going to get the most out of the Academy. And it's only $37 a month. Extremely affordable. And I have that for a reason, because I have survival mode. I have survival mode just imprinted in my brain of like, okay, I'm going to make this super accessible for everybody. And no matter what, they're not even going to be able to say no because of this, that, and the other. This is available for you. It's just, you have to actually watch the videos when you get into it. Because once you get into the Academy, there's so many to-dos on the list. You're like, okay, there's 10 videos here to show me exactly how to do this. I just have to actually watch them and implement them. It's different. But at least you're not just, shooting things out and be like, I hope this works. Or trying this or that, or just doing things out of order when you really should just do them in this order. And yeah, it gives you a to-do list instead of you making your own. But yeah, okay. So that is all I have this week. I haven't recorded a solo episode in a long time. I wasn't sure how I was going to do it, but everything went pretty well, actually. I think I had to stop 5 different times in the middle of it to just catch my thought. And I edited that out already. But yeah, okay. So gosh dang it, I'm so bad at ending these things. I'm always like, okay, see you later, bye. Even on interviews, really, I'm like, okay, thanks, bye. I need to find just a really smooth way to end all of this. But in my head, I'm sure it probably seems smooth to you, but in my head, I'm always jumbling of oh, okay, talk to you later. Okay. Anyway, this is the end of the episode now, and I will see you guys next week. We'll have an interview, I'm sure. And yeah, I think I'm actually going to record another podcast right after this that will air here in a few weeks. So I'm being overproductive today. Look at that. Okay. All right. That's it. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Artist Academy podcast. If you would like to be a member of the Academy, $37 a month, and it is a full just ride exactly how you start and grow your art business. So you can go to artistacademy.co. That is artistacademy.co. There's also a link in the notes here to join, but I will see you next week. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Artist Academy podcast. If you like this art and business talk in audio form, then I want to invite you to get my book. It's called Mural Money: How to Grow Your Art Business from Zero to 6 Figures. So starting from the very bottom, you don't even have a website yet. You have nothing. You're not sure where to go, and you want to make money with a paintbrush. You want to have your creativity pay the bills. I have taken so much of the advice that I've gotten from artists from this podcast. I've been doing one episode for over 5 years now. So many interviews, so many good bits of advice. So I've taken the best of that advice and put it in my book, along with so many stories and lessons learned that I've had in my own mural career of just how I would go back and save a whole lot of time if I just knew these steps. It's a 15-hour audiobook. And so if you like this podcast, if you're listening to interview after interview, I know that you're going to like the book. So go to muralmoney.com. It's for anybody who wants to grow their art business with a paintbrush. Muralmoney.com. And I will see you next week for another episode of the Artist Academy podcast.